The governor is on vacation. This time, he's in Montana. But the personal trip has caused a stir among some social media users, since Montana is on the list of states banned from state-funded travel. Here's the story.
Governor Gavin Newsom is vacationing in Montana this week to visit his in-laws. Anthony York, a spokesperson for the governor's office, said on Twitter that Newsom is on vacation with his family. He will return later this week. But what has some people peeved is that Montana is one of 20 states on a list of states banned from official state-funded travel. However, York wrote in the same Twitter post that the travel ban applies to using state funds. The governor's travel is not being paid by the state. That left some Twitter users to speculate whether the governor has security with him, and if so, who's paying them? Some defended the governor, saying that he deserves to have a personal life. Others argued that taxpayers deserve to know if taxes are being spent on an official's personal expenses. In addition to banned official travel to the Treasure State, Arizona, Indiana, Louisiana, and Utah are the newest additions to the list of states California officials are banned from traveling to. Golden State Attorney General Rob Bonta said last week that the ban is a result of recently passed laws in these states banning biological males from competing in girls' school sports. The 20 states on the ban list either have or are considering laws restricting sexual orientation and gender identity. Arizona Governor Doug Ducey responded to the announcement, saying, "It's unfortunate California employees won't be able to travel here and visit all the businesses that have fled their state." The new travel restrictions went into effect on July 1st.
The homeless population continues to rise despite all of the effort and money put into addressing the problem. One mayor says California policies are to blame.
Robert Pequeño, mayor of Lake Forest, previously served as a homeless officer. He told California insiders CMAC Karami that current California policies, such as prison reform and housing first, are not solving homelessness. Instead, they're making it worse.
We do need permanent solutions, but before that, we need to talk about accountability, because once like AB 109 was passed, right, it realigned the prisons and just let people out. Well, most of those people in the prisons were homeless when they went to prison, so when they let them out, they don't let them back into somebody's doorstep, they let them back into society, and so now we're stuck with them on our streets.
Pequeño makes it clear that not all homeless people are criminals. It's just the few that make trouble. But he says criminal elements run the homeless world.
If you looked at the Santa Ana riverbed, what is the number one thing that was they had the most of? Were bicycles, right? They just go to the local communities and steal all the bicycles, and so the criminals do they buy, they sell, they do drug possession, drug sales, right? And so that's how they make their money. They make their money off the vulnerable, because somebody with a mental illness may need drugs just to self-medicate. So, okay, hey, go steal me that bike, bring me the bike, I'll give you some drugs, and we'll call it even.
Another example he gave is Proposition 47, which categorized stolen merchandise under $950 a misdemeanor instead of felony. Critics have said Prop 47 is the catalyst for the recent surge in smash-and-grab robberies. Pequeño says the homeless are territorial too. Theft is prevalent in such communities, so they defend themselves.
In my experience, just about every chronic homeless person that I ran into had a weapon of some type.
To protect themselves.
To protect themselves and to protect their property.
Pequeño says cities and organizations have spent millions of dollars on homelessness, but the programs often fail.
Because sometimes these organizations that spend money on homeless, they spend money on homeless that are never really going to accept the services. They just do enough to get a bed for the night, a hotel for the night, food, vouchers, or whatever these organizations give them.
His city has partnered with more thorough organizations like Families Forward. The goal is to help at-risk families on the verge of homelessness. They instead give career coaching, life coaching, and more.
Over the weekend, a major Southern California city announced its results for the homeless point-in-time count. They saw a major increase in people living in cars. Here's a look at the numbers. Long Beach saw a 380% increase in people living in a vehicle compared to January 2020. Those numbers are from this year's homeless point-in-time count, which found nearly 3,300 people living unhoused. The city also saw a 120% increase in people living in interim housing. According to the city, while many remain unsheltered, more people than ever before are living in emergency shelters or interim housing in Long Beach. Long Beach had a 22% increase in people living in encampments or on the street. Nearly 80% of the city's homeless were living in Long Beach and LA County before becoming homeless. More than 90% became homeless in California. Primary contributing factors to homelessness include economic difficulties, mental illness, relationship issues, and domestic abuse. City Manager Tom Modica said, "The city has continued to make sheltering, housing, and offering resources to people experiencing homelessness a top priority." According to the Long Beach Department of Health and Human Services, the Housing Authority offers 582 emergency housing vouchers. Over 130 people have been housed through them. According to the city, it shelters 40 to 60 people per night in motels and plans to build new tiny homes for people experiencing homelessness. It's also in the process of purchasing a new Project Home Keys site. While for some, the concept of affordable housing may mean monthly rent in the hundreds of dollars, one California city defines it as several thousand. While the local government seems matter-of-fact about higher incomes, a poll from last year suggests the high incomes don't make up for the resulting quality of life. NTD's Daniel Hall reports.
An annual salary of almost $200,000 may sound like a lot, but in California, those earnings qualify San Franciscans as low-income housing status. That could get locals a 420 square foot studio apartment in the city for just over $1,800 per month. That's according to Dahlia, the city's affordable housing website. The broad definition of low income comes as housing prices in San Francisco are higher than ever. According to the California Association of Realtors, the median price for a single-family home was just over $2 million in May. January 2015 was the last time the median price was just under $1 million. The price has doubled in the last 7 years. Several other things have doubled as well. City officials reported that per capita income has doubled in the last 10 years, going from about $85,000 to $173,000 in 2021. Tax collection has doubled as well, sitting at $3.8 billion for 2021. But a poll from last year, along with census data, suggests that money might not be the solution to the problem. To get an idea of living in the Greater Bay Area, a 2021 poll from joint venture Silicon Valley asked residents about quality of life. Over 3/4 of respondents said cost of housing and living were the main reasons they wanted to leave the area. Over half of respondents said both that the region has gotten worse in the last 5 years and that they were likely to leave the region. The 2022 census seems to confirm this, with San Francisco losing over 6% of its population, the most of any city in the United States. Daniel Hall, NTD News, California.
California is now the only state in the United States to offer free health care to illegal immigrants. This comes after Governor Gavin Newsom signed a budget at the end of last month of over $300 billion.
California will now provide an estimated 764,000 people free healthcare coverage for $2.7 billion annually. The spending falls under the state budget provision that expands Medi-Cal coverage. After penning his signature on the budget last Thursday, Newsom tweeted that this is what being pro-life actually looks like. Federal and state governments provide free healthcare to low-income residents through Medicaid, but it excludes illegal immigrants. Newsom's provision will make California the only state to offer free healthcare regardless of citizenship status. An estimated 92% of Californians have some form of healthcare. Illegal immigrants make up the largest group of people in the state without healthcare. Critics worry that free healthcare would further incentivize illegal crossings. This comes as crossing-related deaths are on the rise. John Kupel, president of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, said the expansion was a magnet for those who are not legally authorized to enter the country. He added that while many are sympathetic to the immigrant community, he said he hopes for better control of who enters both the state and nation.
Brea City celebrated freedom and brought back the Patriot spirit with a home decoration contest. The winners were announced on the 4th of July. Brea City announced the 3 winners of this year's Patriotic Home Decoration Competition at the Country Fair. Kristen Steyerman, Brea's Community Services Supervisor, told the Epic Times, "We did this for the first time in 2020 during COVID to try and help people bring their spirit back. We love to celebrate Brea, our freedoms, and that whole July 4th in the United States of America is all about. That small town feeling here in Brea is amazing." The annual Country Fair also featured various activities and welcomed thousands of community members.